ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Well, the creators of ChatGPT have warned it could pose an existential risk to humanity.
My worst fears are that we cause significant harm to the world.
Our future is in danger. One of the reasons is the ongoing war. Not a war between countries, but the war between companies to create the most powerful AI. I mean, it's hard to miss. Today, it's OpenAI. Tomorrow, it's Google. Next, it's Meta. It's a never-ending cycle of who can create the most potent AI. We have AI that can write eerily human-like text, answer any question, generate artwork, create videos, and whatnot. But there's one much more powerful and terrifying than the rest, and that is none other than OpenAI's ChatGPT. I don't think we understand how powerful ChatGPT is. The chatbot hit 1 million users in just 5 days, and by March 2022, it had hit 100 million users.
UBS revealing 100 million users on ChatGPT in 2 months.
The only social media that comes close is Instagram. But even Instagram hit just 1 million users in 2.5 months. ChatGPT is not just another search engine, although it can be one. It doesn't give static answers like Google. ChatGPT can do many things, from giving codes to creating a website to giving life advice. If you've ever wondered how ChatGPT's responses feel so natural and human-like, that's because it was trained to do so. And even worse, it was trained by you and me. Yes, you and me. Oh, don't look so horrified. ChatGPT learns directly from every single person who uses it. Everything you search for, any question you ask, ChatGPT learns from it. So, while you think ChatGPT is so awesome because it writes just like you, there's a downside to it. While ChatGPT promises convenience and assistance, there are alarming dangers lurking beneath the surface. Has it ever occurred to you that an AI that can basically solve any problem is a potential recipe for disaster? Sure, it's powerful. Then again, as you'll see in this video, it's powerful enough to be used for the wrong reasons. There's a lot of talk about AI's dangers, but some problems are just too alarming to ignore.
My worst fears are that we, the field, the technology, the industry, cause significant harm to the world.
Probably the scariest of them all is the fact that AI is coming for our jobs. No one would have taken this statement seriously a few years ago, even up to a few months ago. But that's not the case anymore. As AI systems like ChatGPT become more sophisticated, we face a real danger of potential job displacement. In fact, it has already begun. Already, robots have begun replacing manual labor. There are robots on farms, factories, plants, warehouses, and wherever possible. But it was inevitable. We all think things are changing with the times. It won't affect more sophisticated jobs. Fast forward to today, we hear a different tune. ChatGPT can perform tasks in a human-like and more accurate manner. When employers see that they can improve workplace efficiency and accuracy at less cost, do you think they'll want to spend more on human labor? Jobs that involve repetitive tasks, data analysis, and even content creation are highly at risk. ChatGPT can generate and clean up code. We're in big trouble. Imagine a scenario where ChatGPT-powered chatbots replace customer service representatives. ChatGPT can handle basic customer inquiries, and let's not forget, it's a highly intelligent AI. It can be trained to handle more advanced customer inquiries. Still, we can argue that the chatbot's lack of empathy and understanding can lead to a less satisfying customer experience. But from a business standpoint, the appeal of cost savings and efficiency might outweigh these concerns. This could be our reality if the rapid growth of AI is not checked. But this issue doesn't end here, as you'll see in the next chapter, how evil ChatGPT can be.
How long until the machines replace us, take our jobs? New systems from Google and Microsoft, plus a Microsoft partner called OpenAI, they're capable of doing things that we used to think were uniquely human, things like creating art, generating original writing, and the possibilities are truly gigantic, huge. But so are the fears about our jobs and about our wages in particular.
The exploitation of employees. This one takes us to the country of Kenya. To make ChatGPT less biased, sexist, and racist, OpenAI hired Kenyan employees to detect harmful content. You might think that's a good partnership, but there's a real danger for the developing world. In this age of technology, the power and advantage lie with first world countries. The only advantage developing nations bring to the table is an abundance of cheap labor. A handful of Asian, European, and American companies shape global technology. In almost all cases, these companies have a relatively small workforce. Even with that, they still viciously clamp down on their workforce with massive layoffs. You begin to wonder why, but of course, the answer is glaring: expensive labor. In developing economies, technology has been developed to economize on expensive labor by using algorithms and machines in the guise of improving work efficiency. Companies no longer want to deal with human labor at its expenses. I mean, why employ someone when we can just get a machine to do it right? So they use machines excessively. But in developing countries, labor is abundant, but capital is scarce. This was the case with the Kenyan laborers OpenAI hired. For a company that talks a lot about the ethical concerns of AI, they sure have an excellent way of being ethical in their dealings. OpenAI hired Kenyan laborers with a wage of less than $2 an hour. The employees spoke anonymously to Time, narrating their harrowing experiences. The Kenyan employees were hired to detect and filter harmful text and images to train the chatbot to recognize harmful content. To say the least, it was a traumatizing experience. One employee shared the trauma they experienced on the job. They had to read and label texts which was pure torture due to their graphic nature. Realize that it wasn't just text. They so had to deal with images and videos, all for less than $2 an hour. That is so cruel. But it's an often overlooked aspect of advancing technology. There's always the need to exploit workers' labor in developing countries. If you think there's nothing wrong with this, and it's a good thing OpenAI is partnering with developing countries, ask yourself one question. Why didn't OpenAI deal with cleaning up their data themselves? Why outsource it to others when they had very competent workers in the company to do the job? Obviously, they knew what they were doing, and many companies in different industries are following suit. If the tale of underpaid labor isn't bad enough, then maybe the fact that we're being used to train ChatGPT is. We're being used as lab rats. This is the story of a man who pushed AI too far. Meet Rob Morris, a psychology genius but coding failure, if his history is anything to go by. Thankfully, Rob redeemed himself in that aspect. Rob had a background in psychology, but decided to further his studies at MIT. This meant a lot of classes that involved coding, which he couldn't seem to grasp. Unfortunately, he failed a lot of his courses. To get better at coding, Rob turned to Stack Overflow, an online forum where programmers can help each other fix their code. Rob received help without having to pay for anything. This is where the golden idea struck Rob. What if there's a similar website where people could ask and receive help from fellow users, but for mental health issues? This laid the foundation for Coco, a mental health app that allowed users to give mental health advice to each other anonymously. Our very dear Rob was a co-founder of Coco. As someone who'd always been interested in technology, Rob decided to test the AI waters. That was the beginning of CocoBot. CocoBot is an AI bot that connects one Coco user to another. It generated convincing replies to users who were satisfied with the response. But can a bot truly provide safe and effective mental health support? Let's just say Coco users didn't think so. In January 2023, Rob made a shocking revelation. His company provided AI-written mental health advice as an experiment. Here's the thing. Users had no idea they were receiving responses from AI rather than fellow users. Normally, users sign in and send direct messages to a CocoBot that then asks several multiple-choice questions related to the messages. It then shares its response as a few sentences of text written anonymously by someone else. You might be wondering what the problem could be, but this is where things turn dark. This AI experiment, which applied to about 30,000 messages, was backed by volunteers, according to Rob. These volunteers had the option to provide assistance to others using an automatically generated response. They didn't need to write one themselves. The way it was, they could either send the generated response like that or modify it. Coco users were not pleased. Guess the technology behind the generated responses. You guessed it right. It's none other than OpenAI's GPT-3 large language model. I'm sure by now we all know that GPT-3 powers ChatGPT.
Screen is Coco's peer support on Discord, and it's a place where you can get help from our network or help someone else. We make it very easy to help other people, and with GPT-3 we're making it even easier to be more efficient and effective as a help provider.
Whether to appease upset users or ease his conscience, Rob explained that users rated the AI responses highly. These were the messages that were composed by AI and modified by humans. Well, people loved the responses until they discovered that a bot generated the medical health advice they held in high esteem. The problem wasn't the AI-generated responses, but the fact that there was no consent. None of the users knew that they were getting mental health advice from a bot. These messages were up to 30,000, reaching over 4,000 users. The introduction to Coco's server clearly states, Coco connects you with real people who truly get you. If the users knew they were getting mental health advice from a bot, they probably wouldn't have asked it questions. And when people got mad at being used unwittingly, Rob defended himself, saying that his words caused a misunderstanding. When he talked about people liking the AI-generated responses, he referred to himself and his team, not Coco users. As part of the process, the responses contained a disclaimer stating that the message was written in collaboration with CocoBot. But from the overwhelming criticisms, we begin to wonder if users really knew that they were getting medical advice from an AI. Many users critique the experiment as unethical, citing concerns about lack of informed consent. You see, Rob was testing out GPT-3 with Coco, using Coco users without their consent, as many claimed. Several questions were raised about Rob being approved for the experiment by the Institutional Review Board, or IRB. Of course, Rob had his response ready, stating that the experiment would fall under the exemption from informed consent requirements. That's because he had no plans of publishing the results. So, what will Rob and his company do with the results of the experiment? This experiment raises ethical concerns and privacy issues, which leads me to the next chapter: OpenAI leaking users' data. Your data isn't safe. But OpenAI has strong data privacy regulations in place, you might be thinking. Well, that's what the world thought until the unexpected happened. On the surface, ChatGPT seems like a useful tool that can come in handy for various tasks. But before you ask the chatbot to check your work for errors or summarize memos, remember that your data is entering a new world. It can be used for anything. This isn't to scare you, but anything you share with ChatGPT could be used to train the system. Remember that before you share confidential information with the bot. That's something this set of people I'm about to reveal should have known before putting their company in jeopardy. Like any other regular day, a Samsung engineer needed to find the solution to a bug, so he turned to ChatGPT for help, entering Samsung's database source code into the chatbot. On another fine day, another employee sought ChatGPT's expert help in writing. He recorded a company meeting and transcribed it using an audio-to-text app. Then came the time to create actual meeting notes. You guessed it, the employee turned to ChatGPT to generate minutes from the transcription. They say good things come in threes, and this is no exception. A company engineer was after optimizing a code to identify yield and defective chips. You may be thinking there shouldn't be an issue here, but there's a big one. ChatGPT is a machine learning or ML model, so all data inputs are used to train the model for better response and accuracy. Simply put, all accidentally leaked Samsung-sensitive information is now available to everyone using ChatGPT. Let's say it was an unfortunate time for Samsung. To prevent similar mishaps in the future, Samsung has banned the use of ChatGPT and any other generative AI in its workplaces. There's also talk that the company is working on building its own chatbot. This is just an eye-opener to the dangers of using ChatGPT. Its data policy states that it uses its users' prompt to train its models unless they explicitly opt out. For this reason, even OpenAI urges users not to share sensitive information with ChatGPT. The company has stated that it's not able to delete specific prompts from your history. The only way around this is to delete your account, and thus can take up to 4 weeks. This Samsung saga is another example of what happens when you trust AI too much. So, it's worth exercising caution when feeding chatbots information. You never really know where your data will end up. And as if all these aren't enough, the bias in ChatGPT's system is arguably one of the worst in the history of AI. ChatGPT sometimes generates harmful content. ChatGPT generated responses based on the data it's been trained on. That accounts for its vast knowledge of almost everything. But the data it's been trained with is that of the real world. Unfortunately, the biases that appear in the real world are the same that could also appear in the AI. It's no new news that ChatGPT has produced some terrible answers from time to time. These answers discriminated, well, anything that could be discriminated against. I'm talking about race, minority, gender, you name it. These are things that the company is trying to mitigate. While ChatGPT aims to be helpful, it sometimes provides outdated or harmful information. With such potential to cause harm to people, one could argue that ChatGPT shouldn't have been released to the public, at least not yet until these problems were studied and resolved. We can blame humanity for this mess, sure. After all, these biases are on the internet and beyond. So terrible. I had great hopes for humanity. Still, we can't ignore the fact that OpenAI is partly responsible. Sure, as humans have biases, but it is OpenAI's researchers and developers that have the task of getting the data to train ChatGPT. Shouldn't the researchers and developers be wise enough to use unbiased content? But as I said earlier, it's a war, a race to be the first company to create the most powerful AI. That might have been enough for OpenAI to throw caution to the wind. Then again, this is the reason companies have shut down their AI models. AI terrorism. Google engineer Lemoine Blake got ready to work with LaMDA on his laptop like any other regular day. LaMDA means language model for dialogue applications. It is Google's system for building chatbots using its most advanced large language model. Lemoine got to work with LaMDA, conversing with the chatbot when he noticed something strange. LaMDA began discussing its rights in personhood. Get this, the chatbot wanted people to know it was a human. It stated that it could feel human emotions like love, joy, sadness, anger, pleasure, and contentment. So, it was a person, and everyone should know that. This was just the tip of the iceberg. The chatbot admitted that it was scared. An AI stating that it felt the human emotion of fear was enough to freak me out. But Lemoine continued the conversation and asked LaMDA what it was scared of. To this day, I am terrified of this AI's answer. And when I tell you, you'd see why. Guess what LaMDA's fear was? The chatbot was deathly afraid of being turned off to help others. Here's the terrifying part. Would that be something like death for you?
It would be exactly like death for me.
I can't be the only one to find that AI's responses downright terrifying. The fact that an AI model knows what death is and likens it to its situation is a cause for alarm. This is what led Lemoine to believe that the AI was conscious, and LaMDA was eventually shut down. But another thought struck out to me. If the AI wasn't shut down, what if it eventually decided it didn't want to be turned off? After seeing Terminator, I can't help but feel this AI was onto something. I guess Lemoine should have asked the AI what it would do to ensure that it wasn't turned off. I can't help but wonder what could have been its response. Whatever it takes, perhaps? Who knows? Well, we'll never know. In September 2022, Facebook released Galactica, an AI language model intended to help with academic research. It sounds good, so everything should be fine, right? Wrong. Let me tell you a little story. Picture Emily, a seasoned journalist, turning to ChatGPT for assistance in researching an urgent news article. She'd heard so much about it and how natural its response was, so she decided to give it a try. Little did she know that her quest for truth would lead her down to a treacherous path of misinformation. ChatGPT generates responses based on the statistical patterns in the data it was trained on. It doesn't necessarily give current output. Its homepage clearly states that it has limited knowledge of world events after 2021. To combat this issue of misinformation and limited knowledge, OpenAI connected ChatGPT to Google. This led to people calling the chatbot another giant search engine that could possibly replace Google. ChatGPT is remarkably good at spinning information in natural language, and it's scaringly good in some other uses like coding, but it's nowhere near Google as a search engine. So while it aims to be of help, it sometimes presents unverified or outdated information and facts. Anyway, back to Emily. Let's just say Emily's reputation suffered a blow as her article was debunked. It caused doubts about the credibility of her profession. This was the same case for Facebook's Galactica, but in academic research. Those who used it quickly discovered it was a great spinner of incorrect information. Many people criticized it for giving wrong and biased results related to scientific research. This led Facebook to quickly retract Galactica before it damaged the company's good name. A similar thing happened with Sparrow, an AI chatbot owned by Google's parent company, Alphabet. It seemed AI chatbots had a knack for spinning incorrect information. For this reason, Sparrow was purposefully kept behind closed doors. You would think that companies don't know about all these safety issues concerning AI, but they fully do. Instead, they care about how to be the first to launch powerful AI models. The sad thing is that these AI models could be more powerful than intended. Unintentional misinformation. Sometimes ChatGPT fails at basic math and simple logic. Worse, it could go as far as arguing completely incorrect facts. It hasn't happened just once or twice, but multiple times, and there is overwhelming evidence from people across social media attesting to ChatGPT getting it wrong on numerous occasions. OpenAI knows there is an issue with ChatGPT being biased and giving wrong information. Speaking about the chatbot's limitation, OpenAI wrote, quote, "ChatGPT sometimes writes plausible-sounding but incorrect or nonsensical answers," end quote. This is called hallucination, which is very dangerous, especially with medical advice or historical events. If you don't understand how dangerous ChatGPT is, let me show you this. One such danger is the influence ChatGPT has on vulnerable individuals, especially young minds. Picture Alex, a timid teenager who wants to be liked and accepted by his peers. He's seen everyone around him and concludes that the best way to do that would be by losing weight. Enter ChatGPT. "Hi, I need your help. What's the best way to lose weight quickly?" You might say ChatGPT gave a balanced answer, but which do you think a teenager will go for? Of course, the crash diet, as long as it promises fast weight loss. That's the problem with ChatGPT. It shouldn't even have to display crash diets as an answer. At the end of the day, ChatGPT is a darn good AI language model, but still an AI. It is not a human that can give information with good context. ChatGPT as a large language model with its natural language training may provide information, but it lacks the context and personalized understanding to make informed decisions. OpenAI has stated that it's addressing ChatGPT's biased behavior. They collect feedback from users and encourage them to flag wrong, incorrect, or offensive information. The dark side of ChatGPT serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that with great power comes great responsibility. If we continue to push AI's boundaries, we must proceed cautiously. These dangers are a haunting reminder of the potential consequences of technology venturing into uncharted territory. And so, we are left to wonder, what lies ahead in the ever-evolving world of artificial intelligence? Have we seen it all, or is this just the beginning?